The battle of Britain is about to begin. Upon this battle depends the survival of Christian civilization. Hitler knows that he will have to break us in this island or lose the war. If we can stand up to him, all Europe may be freed, and the life of the world may move forward into broad, sunlit upland. Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duty. So bear ourselves that if the British Empire and its commonwealths last for 1,000 years, men will still say, this was their finest hour.
The voice of Sir Winston Churchill exhorting the British people to steel themselves for war. 1940 was the country's darkest hour. Europe resounded to the noise of gunfire, bombs, and mass destruction as the armies of Germany's Nazi dictatorship rolled across borders with ruthless efficiency. The Second World War was very different from wars there had been before. Air power, sea power, and the involvement of the United States all played a vital role, as did for the first time the newsreel cameraman. Cinemas were full of pictures from the front and of the beleaguered citizens at home. From the start, Pathe gazettes, as they were then called, reflected the austerity, the heroism, the ingenuity of a decade that saw the fight back from destruction, defeat, and despair to victory, and the start of a new era.
We're nothing if not adaptable. One woman invents a shelter bunk for baby and bundle carrier in one, while youngsters have plenty of opportunities for doing their day's good deed. The baby and bundles problem is solved in various ways. You must hand it to this mother, for instance, while the necessity for shaving at odd times and places gives a city man a bright idea. The price of gaspers is high, so it behoves us to invent for economy. One girl has found a way of enjoying fags to the last puff. No good following her for her dog ends. And when it comes to silk stockings, the best solution is borrow Brother Bill's golf hose and forget your ladder worries. Another girl, afraid she might forget to remove her spectacles in a blitz, protects herself from glass splinters. Lovers are having a rough time with the early blackout, so lunchtime courting is the thing now. She's due back at the office already. But for inventiveness, the palm goes to an errand boy. Tin hats are scarce, but while there's a saucepan, size 6 5/8 in Mother's cupboard, he feels as safe as saucepans.
And they simply won't fade away. The old marching song comes back again as we visit the men who today are responsible for guarding vulnerable points in all parts of the country. Fine old-timers answering the urge to serve again. Many friendships that were started in the last spot of bother are revived in the Home Defence Battalions, which consist of men between 35 and 50, and all volunteers. And can they show the young uns a thing or two?
Lift it, lift it, lift it, lift it.
Night and day, these men guard our lines of communication at home, ensuring the safe transport of troops and munitions on their way to ports of embarkation. And they're on duty wherever a vital service needs protection. Are they downhearted? No wonder they smile. They've done their bit and come back again for a second helping. And each of them has the satisfaction of knowing that he's releasing a younger man for duty overseas. And talking of a second helping, as you'd guess, with tough babies like these, the eats department is just one big joyride. Isn't that right, Chef? And when the customers feed, they say you can hear them for miles. Healthy open-air work breeds healthy, wide-open appetites. What say you, chum? Speckled Richard, otherwise Spotted Dick. And with custard, they won't half be sick. Between spells of duty, there are honours to be won at darts, and halfpennies are waiting impatiently to be shoved. The country is in safe hands, with the Home Defence Battalions on guard.
The 13 million housewives of Britain. They don't parade? What about those weary, straggling lines they formed right through the war and peace, wondering if they can scrape together a meal, wondering if the children are all right? It wasn't themselves they cared about, always the children first. There was fear, heartbreak, as they saw the children go away from home, ticketed and labelled into the unknown. The mothers had to stay behind, to face loneliness and the horrors of war from the air. For Britain's women, war meant a lifetime of strain and worry. Rations, points, coupons, the daily problem of meals, with food that was scanty and dreary. The never-ending search for little luxuries, the pleading with shopkeepers. The housewives had none of the compensations of war, travel, companionship, a few days' leave. There was no escape from the dull, endless monotony of the household round. Years of washing up, of scrubbing and cleaning, of patching and making do. No medals, no mentions in dispatches. They just kept on writing, everything's all right at home. The women made the best of it, and when there wasn't enough to go round, it was the women who went without. Always something to do. For many, these were the best years of their lives. They should have been years of being taken out and amused and entertained. But instead, there was nothing but waiting. They, too, lived within the shadow of death.
Early in the enemy's intensified air attacks on London, bombs were dropped on the Dockland area. These caused a big fire, which, as night fell, illuminated a wide section of London. In consequence, Nazi airmen, without a shadow of doubt, could have picked out other targets of military importance. But the Royal Air Force and our ground defences were inflicting heavy losses on the attacking air armadas, as many as 99 enemy raiders being brought down in one day. In their rage at these blows at their air might, the Nazis threw off all pretense of confining themselves to military targets, and the following pictures show that bombs have been scattered over London without any distinction of military objectives. In the East End, much damage has been done to business premises and homes. And the morning after this occurred, the German communique said that they attacked targets of military importance. Military importance? Look at it! In a West London district, some houses and a block of flats were struck. Targets of military importance, my foot! A bus was blown over like a kid's toy by a bomb which burst across the road. A tram, too. Is a London tram car of military importance? Any war the Hun has ever fought has been aimed chiefly at the civilian. The coward always attacks the weak. A bright thought in the midst of scenes of devastation. What London goes through in the darkness of night is comparable only to the punishment being meted out by us on the war factories and truly military objectives of our despicable enemy. The King visits the Air Ministry, where he's received by Sir Archibald Sinclair, Sir Cyril Newell, and Sir Hugh Seeley. A call at the Ministry of Home Security follows, and the King leaves in company with General Bartholomew and Sir Louis Grieve. Both visits precede a tour by the King and Queen of bombed areas in London. To Fulham, their Majesties bring a cheery word, and the Queen especially a friendly smile. As they walk with difficulty among the wreckage, they're greatly moved by the wanton havoc wrought by the Huns. At intervals, the royal party halt to have a word with ARP workers, demolition squads and firemen who've done such splendid work at so great a risk. And the Queen smiles again as she insists on shaking the hand of a worker who apologizes for its griminess. Having had their own home bombed, their Majesties speak with understanding and sympathy to those of their subjects who have also fallen victims to Nazi savagery.
As well as leaving an ugly scar on the towns and cities of Britain, the Blitz also brought great risk to the civilian population for the first time. They now shared the dangers with soldiers on the battlefields. Pathe cameraman also went out with the troops and sent back some dramatic and sometimes extremely moving pictures. From the beaches of Dunkirk, for example, when the fleet of little ships rescued hundreds of thousands of Allied soldiers trapped by the advancing German forces.
The dark shadow of ships flash their signals to the shore. As dawn breaks, Pathe Gazette's cameraman is on a tiny merchant ship. He is risking his life to bring you the pictures. He is on his way to Dunkirk. Every few seconds he sees other ships returning, ships of all shapes and sizes, manned by sailors and merchantmen of Britain. Wireless operators are at their posts. Each ship is filled with the men of the BEF and of the French army in Flanders. They are on their way home, home from the hell that is Dunkirk. Since these pictures were taken, we have all heard the full story from the Prime Minister of how the Royal Navy, using nearly 1,000 ships, has brought back nearly 350,000 men. Now you are off burning Dunkirk. Now you are to see that evacuation in progress. You will see the Navy in action, Nazi planes overhead. You will see the beaches of Dunkirk under enemy fire, our own guns replying. You will see the calm waters dotted with hundreds of men as they wade or swim out to the ships. Here in pictures is the triumph that turned a major military disaster into a miracle of deliverance. Here in one staggering shot, the Allied armies come out from the shore. That one amazing picture symbolizes the miracle of deliverance, which in the words of the Prime Minister was achieved by valor, by perseverance, by perfect discipline, by skill and by unconquerable vitality.
By superb heroism, our Air Force inflicted smashing blows on the much-vaunted Luftwaffe. Never in the history of human conflict did so many owe so much to so few. We know now that the mass raids of September were to precede actual invasion.
Our AF fighter pilots accept the challenge and scramble to their aircraft to give battle in what was to prove the most profitable carve-up of the Luftwaffe. Shortly before the big attack, United States aircraft were busy shooting up enemy fighters in the normal run of duty. These combat shots give some idea how American pilots helped to clip the German raiders in the New Year's Day attack. At least one Nazi pilot very soon had enough. He jumped for it.
But the aerial vanguard of the Nazis lay a twisted mass of metal on our shores. So overwhelming were the defeats meted out by the RAF that space had to be found to accommodate the tons of wrecked enemy aircraft. With superb daring, our lions with wings hit back at Germany's war industry.
Well, we've seen a large fire about 25 miles away when we were running up on Berlin. And we flew, that was on the south side of the city. So we went over and had a look at that. Oh, then you flew across the city? Yes, slap across the center. Altogether, we spent half an hour checking out on the target. And when we definitely identified it, we ran up and dropped our bombs.
On the 6th of June, 1944, the great secret is divulged. Here are the first pictures of the opening of the second front. Pictures which security demands should be meager at this stage, yet thrilling because they carry the first flush of excitement as the mammoth task gets underway. Over the French coast go our bombers as invasion hour dawns.
to blast enemy lines of communication. From the coast of Britain, the floodgates are opening to release the tide of Allied soldiers. The great curtain of secrecy is still drawn as invasion troops embark, and our Prime Minister makes a last-minute visit to the assembled armada. The first of a series of landings in force is how Mr. Churchill describes the operation. Author of the Victory V sign, he watches over the great preparations. While all this is going on, there goes out to Europe by radio the warnings issued by Supreme Headquarters. The alert is sounded not only in France, but in Norway, Belgium, and Holland. The underground movements are given instructions, and to the people of France, there comes the voice of the Supreme Commander, General Eisenhower.
This landing is but the opening phase of the campaign in Western Europe. Great battles lie ahead. I call upon all who love freedom to stand with us now. Keep your faith staunch. Our arms are resolute. Together we shall achieve victory.
While civilian Britain sleeps, history's greatest story is being written. Between midnight and breakfast, the D-Day plan is launched. And when the news breaks, the people at home rush to buy it. Eagerly they absorb every line of the rationed information as it comes to hand. The news is good, far better than they dared to hope. Bridgeheads are won, we penetrate inland, airstrips are under construction, and best of all, casualties amazingly light. The closing chapter of the war in Europe. Unforgettable moments which must not go unrecorded in our newsreel history of World War II. First, we look back to that momentous day a short while ago when British and Russians linked up near Weimar. The war was virtually over when this exciting event took place.
How do you do? How you pal, darling soldiers, and I'm pleased to meet you. We've both come a long way together, and we've done it together.
Армия очень довольна тем, что наши союзники также били врага, как и мы.
What does that mean? Very good.
What does that mean?
Eh?
What does that mean?
How do I know?
How do I?
Well, we can't put linger that we can fight the same way together, can't we?
Yes. Well, all the best, old man. I'm very, very glad to have met you. Very glad indeed. Благодарим вас за помощь, которую оказали вы нам в войне против гитлеровской Германии. Thank you very much. We don't understand the language, but we mean the same thing.
Lüneburg Heath, Germany, May the 4th, 1945. The instrument of Germany's unconditional surrender was signed. Said Monty, "If you don't agree, I shall go on with the war and be delighted to do so." But the Germans sat down, and having read out the terms of capitulation, Field Marshal Montgomery gave his orders.
The German delegation will now sign this paper.
7 clauses, and no mere scrap of paper. Clause 2 is tapped out by Morse, the signal for the ceasefire, which reads, "All hostilities on land, on sea, and in the air by German forces to cease by 0800 hours. Field Marshal Montgomery, fresh from his great triumph, sends a message to his troops.
On this day of victory in Europe, I feel I would like to speak to all who have served and fought with me during the last few years. I would ask you all to remember those of our comrades who fell in the struggle. They gave their lives that others might have freedom, and no man can do more than that. I believe that he would say to each one of them, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." We must remember to give thankfulness where it is due. This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. It has been a privilege and an honor to command this great British Empire team in Western Europe. I thank each one of you from the bottom of my heart. And so, let us embark on what lies ahead, full of joy and optimism. We have won the German war. Let us now win the peace. Good luck to each one of you, wherever you may be.
Cheers bridged the English chant. Britons, impatient for the official signal to celebrate, jumped the starting gun on Monday night when notice of capitulation waited upon Whitehall, Washington, and Moscow. VEE began it, and for days afterwards, Londoners packed city streets and squares. The idea was to make a noise, and this is it.
As soon as the victory celebrations were over, the task of reconstruction and rehabilitation began in earnest. As well as the emotional upheavals of demobilization, there was still rationing to cope with. Coupons for clothes, petrol and sweets. Being back in Civvy Street may have been what hundreds of thousands had looked forward to for years, but as these Pathe reports made plain, it also had its problems.
Naval men on the first discharge list provided the first test for the elaborate Admiralty dispersal arrangements. Petty Officer Manning tackles the first and most popular department of all. After pay, the next job is to choose a civvy suit and all the trimmings. The first since the war started. These shoes won't have to negotiate a heaving deck like the pair he's wearing. After years of a peaked cap and navy uniform, it's hard to say if civvies look quite the thing. This selection wins approval, but what will the old woman say? The RAF shop window looks better equipped than most civvy stores. All that's missing is the price tag. A complete new outfit, the coupon clipper's dream. Civilian experts are there to help, just in case the Irk has forgotten how to put on a civvy waistcoat. There's everything here from pinstripe suits for budding businessmen to light checks for country gents.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Would you like a sports jacket or... No, a suit, please. A nice smart check, like this. Blimey, Maxie Miller. Oh, like that. Well, there's something here a little quieter. That's better. Yes, we'll try that jacket on if you don't mind. See how it fits. Glad to be getting back home again? Yes, indeed. I'll bet you are, too. Gosh, I wonder what the missus will say to this outfit.
You get a choice of shirts to go with the suit and an old school tie to match.
Well, how do you feel now, old boy? I feel fine. Well, cheerio. You can't put me on the face now, old top. Cheerio, boys. Cheerio.
No coupons. That was the main attraction at the bargain sale of ARP equipment that brought Fulham queues out in strength. The local council bought up the equipment and sold it at prices that make even 1939 look sick. Outsiders were barred. You had to live in Fulham to get a look in. The lucky people. Stars of the sale were ARP blankets, priced from 2 and 6 to 12 shillings each. You could get a warden's raincoat for 6 bob, and there was a nice Christmassy line in jackknives at 18 pence. 1,500 blankets will help to keep Fulham warm these long winter evenings.
We haven't got enough coupons. And I've got to have a few for towels and things for the house.
Perhaps we can help you. And who may you be? Your old clothes, put away and forgotten. Use us now, for instance. I could make a smart costume for the young lady.
Something very stylish in coat frocks for madam.
Well, if the youngster wants some shorts, I don't mind being cut down.
And we'll join forces and make John a new sweater.
3 boy shirts out of us.
My wedding dress. I'd like to be a night dress and panties.
Well, folks, what are you waiting for?
That's all very well, but I've never turned a pair of trousers into a skirt in my life.
Never mind. It's quite easy to do. Ask at your technical institute. There's probably a local make-do and mend class where you can learn.
Or why not get together with your friends and form a make, do, and mend group? Then you can all help each other.
The Bingle hairstyle, the shortcut for victory. If your war job is where the wheels are turning, it's only common sense to play for safety and keep your hair short. Believe you me, a hair on the head's worth two in the machinery. And while you're having it cut, why not have it made attractive also? A mob cap isn't enough. Hair can still escape and cause untold trouble. The partings form 4 V's, hence V-ingle, Bingle. You should bear in mind some of the other troubles due to long hair at war work. Dust, grit, and powder may get into the hair, causing most distressing skin complaints. And though you may be giving your services to the war effort, there's no reason why you should give your complexion too. Looks well, doesn't it? And now I hope you'll forgive me for breaking into rhyme. If you'd avoid a bad scalp tingle, take care of your hair. The answer's Bingle. Bad verse, but good advice.
A story about nylons ought to be a fashion reporter's dream. For me, it isn't. While I was looking around the factory, watching them made, I was thinking about all the women who've written to me about this tale of the missing nylons. First promise was that they were to have been in the shops last June. They weren't. The makers said they'd been over-optimistic. The Board of Trade said nothing. As for us, well, we just went without. The latest news is that there won't be enough nylons for everyone until June 1947. In the meantime, some are on sale in the shops now. How do you get them? Well, how does a woman buy anything nowadays? She queues. If you're in the right place at the right time, and that's about 5 o'clock in the morning, you'll get a pair. If not, well, all I can suggest is that you go on a visit to a nylon factory and see if you can get the boss to hand a pair over. Oh, they're certainly better than anything we've seen before. This, by the way, is the right way to put them on. You'll be pleased if you do get a pair, but don't forget, those who have are numbered in hundreds. The have-nots are in thousands. And I shan't feel happy about the nylon business until every woman who needs a pair can get one.
Short or long? That's the issue being fought over in the Battle of the Skirts. In London's West End, birthplace of British fashions, our cameraman took a look around. He saw these down-the-calf designs. The question now is, are we in for a new long skirt era, with grandma's fashions making a spectacular comeback? In London, really long skirts were still rare, but there were plenty of these just below the knee lengths. It looks as if our women folk have decided to hide their knees after 10 years when skirts got shorter every season. As for the short skirt, well, quite a few people will miss it.
This would never have happened if Sir Walter Raleigh hadn't come back from Virginia smoking a pipe. There would have been no cigarettes to tax and no cigarettes to queue for, like today. But the spirit of Raleigh lives. The search goes on. Some say that if women stopped smoking, there'd be no shortage. Others believe that if people between 16 and 60 were not served, tobacconists would have plenty. The Board of Trade says it's a seasonal shortage. The gentlemen who do their business on the black market say everything is fine. And there are some who have more than enough to smoke. The Reverend Cuthbertson is one. He grows his own tobacco in his vicarage garden at Tilty in Essex. He doesn't pay 3 and 6pence or 20. When he's dried and pressed his leaves, he lights up a packet of Cuthbertsons. And there are several thousand planters like him throughout Britain. They don't have to stoop for their smokes. Tobacco wholesalers say that the 20% cut forced on manufacturers has caused the scarcity. Coinciding with the holiday period, the influx of visitors, and the public's tendency to hoard, what was a scarcity has now become an acute shortage. Until things settle down, we have to make the best of it.
Sweet
Street, rationing comes to a sticky end, and small boys everywhere hail the Food Minister their hero of the hour. At last, after 9 years on personal points, Britain follows up the heat wave with the sweet wave. As 0 hour approaches, the Dawn Patrol gathers outside the confectioners. Early birds get a special reward. Money boxes are rifled, and even father joins the queue. The longest memories find it hard to recall such days of plenty. Look out, Dad, that stuff makes even grown-ups do childish things. The good news that draweth old men from the chimney corner and children from play puts the fun back into being young. Tots' mouths have watered a whole lifetime for this great day. For years, they've been cheated by the hard fact of world economy from the unrestricted orgies once accepted as the birthright of every child. But now, hundreds and thousands are backed by the billion. Sherbet and rock, gobstoppers and aniseed balls, lollipops and chocolate bars. And now for the tummy ache of a lifetime.
But the decade of the 40s wasn't all discomfort, sacrifice and hardship. Pathe News had many reports on the lighter side of life. Having a good time wasn't completely forgotten. Sport was still an obsession, and one of the main tasks was to get the country back to its former sporting glory. How far had the war set Britain's athletic prowess back? Why couldn't we recapture some of the triumphs of the years gone by? Just some of the questions posed by Pathe News in their coverage of the post-war years.
Now they're not even waiting to be called up. The youth of Britain is forming a broomstick army to train and get fit for when their turn comes. Some of London's well-known football grounds are opened on Saturday afternoons. The trainers are there, the room is there, the spirit is there, and the boys are rolling up in their hundreds. At every soccer ground that our cameraman visited, it's the same story. Hundreds of youngsters willing to give up Saturday afternoons and get down to the job. It looks as if some of them need it. Straighten up there! They feel they're doing a job of work for Britain, and just at the moment, that's the grandest feeling of all.
To the troops, with best wishes from some kind gentlemen, 2,000 footballs. The first 40 are being presented by an officer of the French High Command, and when those are bust, there'll be plenty of spares to replace them. And you? Definitely a story with a kick in it. So while there isn't much fighting to keep them amused and interested, they can make their own battles. And the way they kick those balls about, you'd think each one had been personally blown up by Dr. Goebbels, with his own special brand of wind and propaganda.
The rocky walls of Gibraltar echo to the shouts of charging men. Invasion of her beaches has started. Several hundred men of the garrison give the place a peacetime appearance during an off-duty spell. Good entertainment with an all-male cast. Over now to the deck of an aircraft carrier where Fleet Air Arm and Navy men give a slap-up hockey match on the flight deck. A break away from war is a rare tonic. Water polo, too, supplies a refreshing change from the everlasting routine of war. Moments of recreation are doubly welcome when they come in these bravest days of Gibraltar's history. Who knows but that in a matter of hours, these men may be back in the heat of battle, hurling shells, bombs, and depth charges in place of a ball. And travel to the Bahamas to see the Duke and Duchess of Windsor refereeing a charity golf match. Walter Hagen drives off, to be followed by Gene Sarrazin.
Oh, nice shot.
Now Tommy Armour gets away. And the Duchess sees the famous Bobby Jones in action. Enriching the Bahamas Red Cross by $7,000, the Duke and Duchess share the spotlight with their guests. Now Tommy Armour, the canny Scot, puts down a long shot. The The Duke takes his refereeing quite seriously. Even Bobby isn't used to having such royal assistants. So what? So he misses. Thanks, Governor. As President of the Bahamas Red Cross, the Duchess presents the contestants with personal tokens of appreciation. A fitting conclusion to a good day's sport. What is wrong with British sport? In the 1920s and 30s, we led the world. Today, it's a different story. Some say it's the food. Others put it more bluntly. They say we haven't got the right men. Remember Harold Larwood of Nottingham? As a fast bowler, he was unrivaled before or since. Here is Yorkshire's Herbert Sutcliffe, England opening bat with Surrey's Jack Hobbs. Nobody has succeeded them. What's the story now? Last winter, Don Bradman and his men kept the Ashes. Golf. America holds every British golf title. Racing. French horses have won this year's 1,000 Guineas, Oaks and Derby. Tennis. Frenchman Petra took home the Wimbledon title. It was different in 1936. Fred Perry beat Germany's Von Kramm, and there was Dorothy Round, twice a Wimbledon champion. We sought out Dorothy Round at her home. Asked about our tennis failures, she ended with this.
I also feel our players are relatively slow about the court and lack speed and severity, which our overseas competitors have. On the other hand, all sport goes in cycles, and I believe that we have the right material, if only it can be properly handled, to see us well on the upswing before this decade is out.
And we're left with football, the one bright spot. It was good to see Stanley Matthews run rings round the rest of Europe team at Glasgow. We won this match 6-1. At soccer, Britain still leads the world. The day must come when triumphs in other sports will come back. Where would football be without its little teams, without the minnows who yearly make cup history? At Manchester's main road, gallant Yeovil need more than guts, mascots and pats on the back to repeat their giant-killing act against streamlined Manchester United, last season's cup winners and favourites again this year. Skipper Johnny Carey clears an early Yeovil raid, and from then it's United all the way. The near-perfect soccer machine in action. A corner starts the avalanche, and Jack Rowley scores goal number 1. Another corner and another goal. Jack Rowley again the scorer. Jimmy Delaney, number 7, sparkles in this relentless Manchester attack. Slick passing and first-time shooting make the Yeovil defence work overtime. Jack Rowley completes his hat-trick with goal number 3. Diving to save, goalie Stan Hall is injured. Badly hurt, he gallantly carries on, typifying the spirit of the men from Somerset. With Yeovil completely outclassed, centre-forward Ronnie Burke puts United 5 up. And there's still more to come. Jack Rowley scores number 8 to make his own tally 4. Having made history, Yeovil go out fighting. Who's to stop United now?
I proclaim open the Olympic Games of London, celebrating as the 14th Olympiad of the modern era.
As the 5-ringed Olympic flag is raised, 7,000 pigeons are released to carry into distant lands the message that the nations of the world are joined in friendly rivalry upon the field of sport. Pauses, salutes the crowd with upraised torch, and then plunges it into the pedestal. From it leaps the flame that will remain alight until the game's end. Arthur Wint, 6'6" London medical student, provides an Olympic high spot, challenging teammate Herb McKinley, renowned world record holder, in the flying lap, the 400 meters race. Long-legged Wint keeps an excited crowd on its toes. Behind the leaders at first, he runs a waiting race. And then in the straight with 70 yards to go, it happens. McKinley is in the lead, but drawing closer and closer is Wint, with the stride of a Goliath and the speed of a sprinter. Flashing past the tape, he wins the Olympics' fastest 400 metres in 46.2 seconds. To Britons, resigned to a minor role in the Games, Win's triumph is a victory for the Empire. Britain's Maureen Gardner, a 19-year-old Oxford ballet teacher, has fought her way into the final and now challenges world champion Mrs. Blankers-Koen of Holland for the Olympic title. 6 of the world's top girl hurdlers make this the Olympiad's most exciting final. What a race, what a finish. Only the judges can separate them. A delighted, sparkling Maureen Gardner finds that she has equalled the world record, yet failed to win. Her rival, Mrs. Blankers-Koen, mother of 2 children, is the Olympic champion.
The 1948 Olympic Games brought nations of the world together in friendship and peace for the first time for almost a decade. And as the sportsmen and women did their bit to foster international harmony, so the politicians were trying to build the foundations for a more secure world through a series of alliances and treaties designed to prevent another world war. At home, the Labour landslide in the 1945 election brought Clement Attlee in as Prime Minister to replace Winston Churchill. And before the decade was out, the foundations of the welfare state had been laid, against a background of increasing economic difficulty. But first, the Allies met at Yaita to agree on the shape of the post-war world.
Welcoming the Allied leaders at the airport is Mr. Molotov, the Soviet Commissar for Foreign Affairs, here seen greeting General Alexander and others. Among the early arrivals are Mr. Eden and Mr. Stustinius, American Secretary of State. Courtesies include a march past by Soviet guardsmen. Mr. Roosevelt and Mr. Churchill, old acquaintances of the Russian leaders, renew the friendship forged at Tehran. The Levadia Palace, however brilliant its functions in Imperial Russia, never housed so memorable a meeting as this. The decisions reached here have to square up to the bedrock aspirations of the people of the United Nations and prove worthy of their cause. The first to arrive is the warrior statesman Joseph Stalin. Mr. Churchill, wearing a shapka, seems to have picked up a bit of local color. Traditional headgear of the Caucasian mountaineers, it added to the PM's already extensive collection of hats. Here is the start of the most important of all round-table conferences. In this room, the future of Germany was hammered out. Says the Crimea Declaration, we are determined to disarm and disband all German armed forces, to break up for all time the German General Staff, remove or destroy all German military equipment, eliminate or control all German industry that could be used for military production, bring all war criminals to justice and swift punishment, and exact reparation in kind. These were the precise terms behind every meeting that took place in those 8 crowded days in Yaita. From 7 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night on July the 5th, the people of Britain decided on the kind of government they want. It was the first general election for 10 years, and experts early estimated a record poll. Men of Southeast Asia Command got their ration of electioneering like the rest of us. The Burma weather was hot, and so were the speakers at first. Voting forms came out by air and gave the postman one of his busiest days. Ballot papers are handed out. Jungle polling booths are more primitive than the black tin boxes at home, but they're secret nevertheless. Mr. Churchill flew back from Potsdam with his daughter Mary on what was to be almost his last day as Prime Minister. Mrs. Churchill was there, as always, to greet him. Electors at Mr. Churchill's constituency, Woodford, gave him a strong vote of confidence. His opponent, Farmer Hancock, seemed to have no hard feelings as he and Mrs. Churchill heard the result.
Labour's big three were elected with handsome majorities. Mr. Herbert Morrison, tipped as Britain's Chancellor of the Exchequer, romped home at East Lewisham. Later, Mr. Morrison said, "We will rebuild London. We will build a fine Great Britain and a prosperous world." Though defeated, Mr. Churchill is acclaimed as a great war leader. Out of the election melting pot comes his successor. Confidently, he faces his responsibility to Britain and the world.
The sweeping victories throughout the country mark an epoch in the political life of this country. Never before have the electors shown clearly their desire that there should be in this country a Labour government carrying out Labour's full policy.
As the foreign ministers of 12 Western nations enter the departmental auditorium in Washington, there begins a new epoch in the history of the world. In this city, once a stronghold of isolationism, democracy opens a new era of cooperation. Acknowledging that security is indivisible, 12 nations combine in a united front from the Tropic of Cancer to the North Pole. An attack on one is an attack on all.
This simple document, if it had have existed in 1914 and in 1939, supported by the nations who are represented here today, I believe it would have prevented the acts of aggression which led to 2 world wars. In this pact, we hope to create a shield against aggression and the fear of a bulwark which will permit us to get on with the real business of government and society, the business of achieving a fuller and happier life for all our citizens.
A transatlantic airliner touches down at London Airport and sets off Crisis Week in Britain. Welcomed home from America is a man with a secret. Only a handful know of the dramatic announcement Chancellor Sir Stafford Cripps is to broadcast soon after his arrival. The government's fateful decision to devalue the pound, 18 years almost to the day after Britain went off the gold standard, comes shock to the nation. First result, a rise in the cost of living due to the higher price of bread. First reaction, a boom in gold shares in the city. 4,000 dealers jam Throgmorton Street in the wildest street market for years. Though the stock exchange and all banks are shut, £150 million are added to share prices. As news comes of other countries, including France, following the pound in devaluation, Britain share a sense of relief. For the nation now knows the worst. Explaining why devaluation was considered the only way out, Sir Stafford says,
I want to impress upon you the seriousness of the step that we've taken in changing the dollar rate of exchange of the pound sterling. This is a thing we can't do twice with any success. We can increase our sales of sterling goods in America and in Canada, and so enable ourselves to buy the foodstuffs and the raw materials that we must have to maintain our living standards. The lowering of the exchange rate of the pound sterling will mean an increase in the price of bread and flour, and possibly later on of a few other things.
Away from the financial sacrifices for a moment, life in the post-war years in Britain did have its glamour and its glitter, even if most of it came from the motion picture industry. Perhaps it was the drab austerity of the time that drove so many people to the cinema, because escapism really was the order of the day, and the stars drew huge crowds wherever they went.
The 1949 British Film Festival gets a send-off befitting a great screen occasion from crowds waiting in Leicester Square, London to greet the stars. Michael Dennison and Dulcie Gray, husband and wife in real life as well as screen partners, are the target for autograph hunters here for a record bag of famous signatures. Next to run the gauntlet, Richard Attenborough. Remember the boy who wouldn't bow down to the founder? Michelle Morgan, lovely French star of The Fallen Idol, joins the glamour parade in the foyer, where favorites like Ronald Reagan, here representing Hollywood, and Pat Rock come together on a day celebrating a year of progress in Britain's great motion picture industry. Others present, Valerie Hobson and Maurice Denham, and last year's Film Festival Award winners, Margaret Lockwood and John Mills. Here too are Michael Wilding and Anna Neagle, co-starred under director Herbert Wilcox in the screenplay that won last year's Best Film Award. The festival, sponsored by the Daily Mail, closes with scenes reenacted from British pictures that made 1948 a memorable film year. Here is an excerpt from one of the year's biggest box office successes, My Brother Jonathan.
Rachel, my darling, there are some things that I can't tell you even now. You must just trust me.
I'd trust you whatever you did. I love you.
I'd give the world not to have hurt you like this.
Oh, no, no, no. At least we've got our work together. In that we're partners. Jonathan, when I saw you tonight, fighting for that child's life, taking risks that might have ruined you, I thought to myself, this is the man I love. Even if he never knows it, I'll always love him.
Rach.
Captain Clark Gable, now stationed in Britain as gunnery instructor in the American Air Force, has said goodbye for the duration to £1,500 a week and signed a new contract with Uncle Sam. Any lady in the audience like to step up and be shot? Maybe you'd like to hear a few words from Captain Gable.
And here's where our real job begins. We're in the graduate school of gunnery now, learning it in combat, trying to put it onto film, trying to report it in a way that will help the gunners back home to know what to expect when they go out on their first mission.
Special Constable George Formby has another part-time occupation. Slipping a smock over his uniform, George goes into action with the Herbert Morrison Brigade in the war against waste. A choice selection of rags, bottles and bones goes for a song.
Hello, who's there?
Uncle Tom Cobley, who do you think's here? Have you got any pots and pans?
Yes, we have.
Can I come in?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
And right in.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Morrison. We're very pleased about this lot.
Just a minute, what about this?
Huh?
What about this?
This?
Aye.
Well, Mr. Morrison doesn't want that.
Doesn't he?
A Pathe cameraman ran into a couple of old friends, Oliver Hardy and Stan Laurel, on their way to the capital for the Royal Command performance. And Mr. Laurel was being as difficult as ever. Those gentlemen seem to be having trouble with the French food situation. But why are they worrying? Over here, they'll be darned lucky if they get any food at all.
As Laurel and Hardy went off to their Royal Command performance, a real-life romance was enthralling the nation. The engagement of the King's elder daughter to a handsome young naval lieutenant, Philip Mountbatten.
In anybody's life, engagement day is a red-letter day. Princess Elizabeth and Lieutenant Mountbatten will never forget July the 10th, 1947. In the morning, they faced the world's press and photographers. The platinum ring, with its one large diamond and two smaller ones, stole the picture. While the royal family entertained their personal guests in the grounds, many others kept patient vigil outside. Pathe waited with the film industry's biggest lens trained on the palace balcony. Late in the evening, after cloud and showers, this was the record it gave of a great day in a history-making romance. On the balcony, the heiress to the throne and her future husband met the British people. The king, looking particularly happy, the Queen and Princess Margaret joined the young couple. While Princess Elizabeth and Lieutenant Philip were celebrating in the palace, it was a big day too in the Methuen Arms, village pub in Corsham, Wiltshire. Lieutenant Mountbatten was stationed there until the day before his engagement was announced. All the locals knew him, and our reporter learned how much they admired him.
Well, I found him a most charming fellow, and he was especially fond of the game of skittles and coming here to the Methuen Arms.
Was he a good player?
He was a jolly good player. And I can't, we've had many a tussle, I can't say which was the best of the two.
Well, who beat who the most?
I wouldn't like to say.
Hello, Foreign. You saw a lot of Lieutenant Mountbatten. How do you feel about the engagement?
Yes, I met the gentleman. Highly delighted to hear about it. And his health and happiness to both, sir. Cheerio.
We were here for about 3 to 4 weeks before we knew he was friends. And we should very much like him here tonight with us. We had some very enjoyable evenings.
You're very, very pleased about the news of the engagement.
Very pleased indeed, yes. We shake hands with ourselves.
Well, here, Johnny goes up to them both. Good night. Well,
The day is November the 20th, 1947. The time, 11 o'clock. A nation and a world watch. Once only in 1100 years of British kingship has there been such a day. An heiress presumptive to the throne marries the man of her choice. The setting is Westminster Abbey. To its west door come members of Europe's royal houses, the peers and the people. History is in the making. 3 miles away, Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten, now His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, leaves. But the eyes of the world are centered on Buckingham Palace. Into the dull November morning, 2 greys draw the Irish stagecoach. Inside, Her Royal Highness Princess Elizabeth and her father. For any girl, wedding day is the day of her life. As the 21-year-old princess arrived at Westminster Abbey, it was her moment too. For Elizabeth, this was of necessity something more. From this hour, a new life begins. Mingled with her private happiness is the sure knowledge that she must now enter a widening field of public duty and responsibility. And now the solemn service begins. In this moment, charged with great meaning, the people of Britain and the Commonwealth joined. They listened and remembered, in towns and villages, in shops, in streets, in homes. For Elizabeth's destiny is great, so great that even the solemn splendor of this great moment could not altogether overshadow it. She who may one day rule over Britain and the Empire shares this heritage with her husband.